We wanted to create a fun, non-judgmental space where women can talk about their shared experiences.
Here, we will normalize the challenges we face as females living in a society that dictates unrealistic and outdated expectations on what a woman should be.
Together, we hope to cultivate a supportive community of women who empower one another to courageously live unapologetically.
A quick disclaimer before we get started. Although Cindy and Danielle are licensed therapists, this podcast is not to be interpreted as therapy or a replacement of therapeutic services. It is strictly a conversation between two women about their experiences in the world. If you like today's episode, please make sure to like and subscribe below. Also, follow us on all of our social media platforms at Unapologetically Females. With that being said, we hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome back to another episode. I am so excited for this guest today. We have had, I don't even know how many laughs before we pressed record already. So it's been a great time. You've done the job well. But it's another one of Cindy's lovely friends. So I will allow Cindy to do the honors of introduction.
Sure. This is my lovely friend, Christine.
Hello.
And Christine, we brought on because are you an RD?
I am an RD.
She is a registered dietitian. Yes. And I thought that it would be really nice to be able to talk about nutrition, female nutrition, or how maybe it changes specifically for females. Okay. And then some of the things Danielle and I often talk about our age difference, right? And so we are going, you and I gone through some changes, some perimenopause, menopause, all those good things, and how nutrition might fit into that too, just or wherever it goes.
Excellent.
But, and also, Christine has her own language, which I hope comes out.
There might be a new word.
Okay.
I love it.
And as you listen, you'll understand.
I love it.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
Yes. So how did you get started in this field?
I had no clue RDs even existed. When I went to U of A, yay, U of A.
Woohoo.
Another U of A
Another U of A.
alum. Oh, wow.
Another Wildcat. I was actually going to become a dermatologist or an oncologist, and then I discovered beer and boys. So things kind of changed.
Same. That's what U of A does to you.
That's good time. That's why we bond. Okay. And so then what happened with that is someone said, take a nutrition class. And a dietitian came in, and I'd always been interested in health. I'd always been interested in nutrition. And she's up there, and I'm like, oh, you can get paid to tell people what to eat? I'm like, this is fantastic. So I started with nutrition. Then I went and I did my master's at Texas A&M. And then you have to do an internship. And things have changed in the past 20, 30 years. But yeah, and then right now I'm working private practice 2.5 days a week. I see a variety of people, and I love it. My husband says I get paid to talk to people, so it works out really well for me.
Yeah, it does.
It's good.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Did you move to Texas to go to school?
I did move for 2 years, and I was in College Station.
Okay.
So yes, it was quite a culture shock back in the early 90s.
Are you from Arizona?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to Saguaro and then U of A. And then I thought I'd end up in Chicago or San Francisco. And I don't know if you had this experience, but everyone from U of A wanted to move out of state. And no one was recruiting for dietitians. So I stayed here and started at St. Luke's Hospital, which is no longer.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was over at Honor Health, which was Scottsdale Memorial back then. And then the rest is history.
Wow.
So not too bad.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was Texas like for you?
There were still people that had shirts that said secede from the nation. They thought that people from Arizona, it was just all trains and cactus. And this is back in 1991, 92, you guys. This is not the 1800s.
Yeah.
So it was a little different. People were very friendly. And again, it was a great program. And what happens is part of this internship, there were 7 other girls in my program from all over. So, I mean, one of my best friends I still keep in touch with, she went to Penn State. But we would drive around in her Jeep, and we would go get beer and get chicken wings. And then we would have, yes, we were dietitians.
Why'd you do like this
training.
to me? Beer. Why'd you do that to her?
I wanted to touch you. I know. I'll get to Danielle.
I like beer too.
So then what would happen is we'd have to go back to our lab. And again, we were one of the few that English was the first language. So it was interesting when we would go back after having beer and chicken wings and have to listen to all that and the research and stuff. So it was a good experience. So you know what? I don't regret going to Texas. I could not live there though.
Okay.
So too humid for me. Now,
Fair.
you're not from Texas. Do you have any?
No, I'm born and raised here in the valley.
Where'd you go to high school?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the East Valley.
East
Okay.
Valley,
Gotcha.
yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And where'd you go for college?
ASU.
It's okay. 2 out of 3 of my kids went to ASU, so it's okay.
My mom is from Tucson though, so we have a lot of Wildcats in our family too.
See?
Yes.
It's good to have a blend.
But
Come on, Danielle. Come on, Danielle.
but we all know.
We all know where your allegiance is. It's okay. I'll scooch over closer to Cindy.
Well, we have Rita too, so we're
Yes.
actually
Okay, it's
well
equal.
balanced.
Yes,
We're
very
well
well
balanced. Yeah.
balanced.
Rita
Rita's
just
a-
graduated from ASU.
from ASU. Yeah. Another alumni.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yes. There we go. Rita. So, okay. So you came back here. You started working at St. Luke's.
St. Luke's and just doing kind of what we call clinical dietitian. So
Okay.
working in the hospital. So people who are really sick need to be fed through tubes, different things like that.
Oh.
And then a little,
I-
tell me what you want to know.
Well, because I didn't even think of it like I didn't even correlate that
Right.
those two things. As you were saying that, I'm like, but it makes sense.
What's really cool about being a dietitian is you can do anything. You can be a sports nutritionist, work with ASU's football team. You can work in the hospital. Someone's too sick that even their gut doesn't work, they would actually feed them through their veins. So, I mean, there's many different things. And so you've got to come up with a formulation, make sure that's all together. You could work food service. You can go work for a drug company. There's so many different things you can do as a dietitian. So what I'm doing now, though, is outpatient nutrition therapy. So if someone has high cholesterol, wants to lose weight, just wants to feel better, they can come and see me.
Okay. That's fascinating. I mean, I've learned a lot
Something
in
new.
such a short amount of time. Look at you.
She's a wealth of knowledge.
information.
Wealth of knowledge. Yes.
All of it.
Okay, what's your next knowledge that you want to drop on us?
No, you tell me because Cindy knows this. I can talk forever.
I love it. I love it.
Perfect. I mean,
love
all
it.
three of us make a living talking.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that we're in the right space.
Yeah.
So
That's really cool because I think that a lot of I don't. Maybe it's just me, and I'm just saying a lot of people don't know. I don't know if the general population understands how
Vast it is.
vast this area is, and so I don't know. I think that could be an interesting conversation because I feel like there's a lot of people that talk about, I want to be like a nutritionist. Can you tell me the difference?
very good question. Anyone can call themselves a nutritionist. You can go online, take a couple of classes, do anything like that. To become a registered dietitian nutritionist, and you got it right with RD, but they've thrown nutritionist on it too, because diet is a 4-letter word. So they wanted to get away from registered dietitian, so that's where they threw the nutritionist part on. So that's where you have to go to an accredited college, you have to go do an internship, and then you have to take an exam, and then you also have to keep up with continuing education credit. So you have that.
Lot
So
like us.
if you were going to get reimbursed by insurance or anything like that, you need to be an RDN.
Okay.
Where if someone just calls themselves a nutritionist, they could be legit, but most likely than not, they do not have the background for that. And they might have good information, but you definitely want to stick with an RDN just to make sure you're getting sound evidence-based information.
Sure. Okay. Lots and
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah.
Mine's gonna be blown a few times in this episode.
It's not hard.
I know.
It doesn't take much.
No.
I love learning new things.
She's easily entertained.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We're going to get along just fine. As am I.
As am I. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, good to know. So now you've gone into private practice.
Yes.
Tell me how you described it. Outpatient.
So outpatient nutrition counseling.
Okay.
So essentially I'm in a little 10 by 10 foot room.
Ooh.
I have my set hours, and then what happens is we do everything online, so I know
Okay.
who I'm going to be seeing. And then they just come in for an hour, hour and a half. And really, and with both of you being therapists, this is kind of cool, because every day I tell them, I'm not a therapist, because there's so much connected
Right.
to
Yeah.
food and just the emotions and everything.
Absolutely.
And with you bringing me on specifically for women, how many women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, they think they have to have the perfect diet. They're worried even if they go off a little bit that they just forget it altogether. So that's where, really working with them. What do you want to do with this? Progress, not perfection. So I do. So I spend an hour, hour and a half with them initially. Might have them come back the next week. If they only get 3 visits and it's a financial problem for that, then maybe we go ahead and just meet once a month or something like that. So it's just, and what I like about it is you get that aha moment. Too many women come in trying to follow a 1,200 calorie diet, not eating till dinner, giving up their favorite foods, and they're struggling with it. And just to teach them to give yourself some grace, you don't have to do this. I'm never going to take away your favorite food, and I'm also not going to tell you to eat this food that you don't like just because it's healthy.
Right.
So it's just kind of figuring that out and just allowing yourself to enjoy food. Let food be fuel. Let it nourish you. It's not the enemy.
Sure. There are so many. I mean, you see it every day
Yeah.
as you are eating disorder specific in your
In my practice, yeah.
but
Yeah, so we have RDNs at our, IOP program. So it's fascinating. And then when you were talking about the hospital side of it, some of our patients come from residential or from inpatient and have been fed with tubes and things like that as well. So yeah, it's there's so much to it for sure.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for over 20
So I
years.
graduated when I was 6.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I've been doing
Genius.
this over, yes, exactly.
Genius.
Doogie Howser. So I have been doing this since 93. Where are we sitting? 2025? 30 plus years?
So how have you seen the landscape evolve over
Okay, so what is actually, do you want to talk about from a dietitian's point of view?
All of it?
All of it. Like,
All
bring
of
it.
it. Bring all of it. Give
I
it
want
to
to
me.
hear it. You're like,
blow
don't
my
stop.
mind
Come on.
again?
So I think from a point of view from a dietitian, when I went to school in the late 80s, early 90s, it was, we're the professional, we know everything going on, you're going to sit and listen to me. I remember being at Scott and White Hospital in Temple, Texas, and I had this big old guy, just great, salt of the earth, 300 plus pounds, had diabetes and everything, and I give him an 1,800 calorie meal plan. And he's like, I don't eat oatmeal. I don't drink orange juice. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, sir, just follow this. And he's like, wait, my birthday's next week. Can I have pie? And we were taught no sugar, no sweets, things like that. I'm like, no, and kind of ran away. And so we were always taught to do that way. I took time off to have my kids, raise my kids, and do all that. So I taught a little bit some nutrition classes, but I wasn't working full time or any of that. So when I got back into it about 7-8 years ago, private practice, everything had changed. We now do motivational interviewing. So that's what was really cool is you should not be doing the majority of the talking. Your client or patient should, because we need to hear where they are. So we just can't steamroll them. We've got to go in there. And so now really when I start something, they're going to come in, they think I'm the food police, but now I go, what would you like to get out of this appointment? What would you like to accomplish? And I think that is really the kinder, gentler way to go, because you accomplish a lot more.
Right.
We're not going to just throw out a pre-made meal plan or anything
Right.
like that. And it might come down to, and that's what it does, we talk about their stress, talk about their sleep. It might be going from 6-pack of regular Coke a day down to 4 or 5 cans. So it's not big changes or anything like that. And I think that's what's important is the sustainability. And so again, coming back to females, I mean, unless we're Benjamin Button, we're not aging backwards or anything. We're only going to get older.
Cindy might be.
Cindy, I do think...
Cindy tries.
Cindy tries. Really.
Cindy really tries.
So, I mean, things aren't going to get easier, but just to learn to give yourself some grace with that and just, do the best you can with everything. And Cindy, you alluded to the whole menopausal thing. I think a big thing for a lot of females, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we're all too restrictive with what we eat, or we feel a lot of guilt with that.
Yeah.
And that's just not healthy for us. Why do we want to add that stressor on when we've got stress of family, work, what's going on in the world, and everything else? So there's something to be said
And
for
it
that.
starts so young.
Yes.
It is.
So young. Yeah.
I mean, it's terrifying because it's like we have been very intentional in our house of like how we
Talk about food
like bodies
and body image. Yeah.
Image, yes.
That's a big one, and not commenting on people's bodies or looks and things like that. And so just being really aware of that. But despite that, I mean, my 9-year-old has made comments about weight, or, just, noticed that, for herself of, and not in like necessarily a negative way, but just, talking about it. And so it's like, how are you? She asked me something about like how many calories was in some, and I'm like, how do you even know what that is? Like,
Right. Well, we just ordered Chipotle for lunch, and all the calories are on. And for me, that's such a struggle in my practice because I have these people that come in and they're already calorie counting to a a detrimental point and are so obsessed with what the numbers are and all of that. And now restaurants are putting the calories on their menus, and
which is a catch-22 because, again, if you've got the one guy who's trying to lose weight and he's 63 years old, then that's helpful. But you're right, especially with counting calories and everything, and it is overly restrictive. What I like to encourage with a lot of people is what can you add to your diet? What are you having? Are you doing the vegetables? Are you having the protein? And specifically for women, let me ask you this, ladies. Do you? You're like, oh no, we're on the spot. So what I was going to say is, you don't have to say anything out loud, but are you getting 0.5 gram of protein per pound that you are? So if it's a 120-pound person, that would be 60 grams of protein a day.
no.
Yeah, I mean, I highly doubt it.
Okay, so this is a big thing.
Yeah.
You're like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah,
because protein is important. It's essential. It's good for your muscles. It's going to be good for your hormones. So what I am finding with women going into premenopause, postmenopause, and even the younger girls too, is make sure you get your protein.
You know what I need? And I was just telling my husband the other day, I'm like, I feel so like weak. Like I need more protein. I don't feel like I'm eating enough protein, and I need to like do more strength training type exercise.
That's another thing playing into that.
But I'm like, I definitely am not. I also, I'm not counting either, but I know.
You don't. But you know what? An easy way to look at it is: are you getting a palm's worth? So we're all going to have different hand sizes, but we're all different sizes. So are you getting at least a palm's worth of some sort of protein? And it can be plant-based if you want to.
At each meal?
And what now?
At each meal?
At each meal.
Okay.
So just.
And it
fun
can
little
be
fact.
plant-based. So plant-based would be like
So you could do your
tofu
beans, you
or
could do your
beans.
tofu if you
Okay.
want to. Now, if you want to have your hamburger, if you want to have your chicken, if you want to have your fish, absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, just definitely need to get the protein. And especially, let me throw this out to you, like how I'm playing with this. Have either one of you had breakfast this morning?
Yes, I did.
Good job, Cindy. Danielle?
I already know this isn't gonna. This
No,
what?
but it's okay.
What do you consider breakfast?
Anything.
Yes,
Have you broken your fast?
a protein bar.
There you go. That counts. There's your, probably 20 grams of protein right
Yeah.
there. Ta-da.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so you
mean-
got that.
Yeah,
That's better than me. I had a piece of sourdough toast with butter.
Could you put peanut butter on it?
I could.
Okay.
But I
could.
didn't.
You're like, I could, but I'm
so
not
the
going to.
answer is no.
I mean, I didn't, but yes, I would.
So, just something to think about. So, good job on the protein bar. That counts.
Great.
Protein drinks can count. It doesn't have to be perfect. None of us are Martha Stewart. Not judging, but just saying, we're not going to have a 3-hour meal and have people to help us put
Right.
together the meal. So,
Right.
you've got that. So, yeah. So, as long as try to have protein at each meal.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
something fun to do. And I think the other thing is water. Are you both good
I'm
water
good.
drinkers?
Definitely not.
I'm good. Yeah, you're not.
Definitely
Yeah,
not.
yeah, you're not.
No. Nope, I got Diet Coke running through my veins, and it's horrible. I know it's horrible. I do.
I'm impressed with how much, like, that you can live off of your Diet
Cindy,
Coke.
how many cans
Like,
do you have?
Like 2 a day.
Oh, okay.
But like she used to come into meetings at 9 a.m. with her Coke. And I'm like, she's drinking Diet Coke at 9 a.m. I mean, I'm not judging, but like impressed. Like she's committed.
She's starting early.
Yeah, she's committed to this life.
I don't drink coffee
No, you don't.
generally.
Yeah.
I mean, unless I'm like really tired. So yeah, it just kind of does it for me. It's probably the bubbles.
Oh, I think so.
Right?
I loved Diet Coke forever until I got into coffee about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you. Mm-hmm. I know what's going
Do
on.
you
with
feel
that.
like it gives you energy?
I do.
Really?
Because the
But
caffeine?
it's also a little bit of like a placebo effect.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's kind of like, ooh, I get to have my Diet Coke now. You know, and people are probably that way too with coffee, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
definitely.
yeah, it gets me out of bed in the morning.
Fair.
There's
Fair.
worse things that could happen to get
Okay.
you out of bed.
Good to
Right.
know.
No, that's fair.
Hey, you mentioned lifting weights, or that kind of came up. Why is it so important in our later years or in our 50s and stuff to be lifting weights?
Because what happens is we do start losing muscle mass starting in our 30s,
Okay.
and it gets progressively worse. So that's why we need to be doing that. The other thing is with that weight-bearing exercise, that is also good for helping build up your bone to prevent against osteoporosis.
Okay.
Because you hear a lot about women falling and breaking their hips. I had one client, she was picking up a Costco pack of water. So think about that, 5, maybe 10 pounds, nothing crazy. She broke 2 vertebrae in her back. She heard pop, pop.
Oh my gosh.
And again, just because, chronic dieters, not getting the protein, not getting the calcium, stuff like that. So you've got to worry about your bones. And then really with that weight training too, that's just engaging, more of the muscles. And when you strengthen your muscles, that's going to make you stronger, less likely to fall over. But when you have more muscle there, you're going to increase your metabolism. So if you increase your metabolism, you can either eat more calories or help you maintain a healthy weight. So I'm all about weight training. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I even tell ladies just to get little water bottles and just start with that. And I have some people that are wheelchair bound, and it's like, okay, just take those water bottles and use them in your wheelchair or push yourself up and out. So there's many different ways you can do it.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Yeah, because I've always heard that, but I wasn't sure exactly why. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of yoga, but that's not.
And yoga is good, but yes, you're going to want to throw some light
to.
weights in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Good to know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So nowadays we have, I don't know how many people you see in your practice that do are using the some of the weight loss medications.
I actually see quite a few.
So I'm curious, how does that intertwine with your work? And also, I guess, how have you seen, how has it also changed what you do?
Very good question, Danielle.
It's a hot topic, kind of.
It's a very hot topic. It's a very controversial one. So
why is it so controversial too? Why do you think that it's so controversial? What side of the controversy are you on?
If you had asked me 5 years ago, you would have gotten a different answer.
So let's rewind. 5 years.
Let's
5
back
years
it up.
ago, you said was.
I would have said it's terrible. Don't take it. It's not worth it. It's kind of that false sense of you're going to lose weight. It's going to decrease your appetite. So I was like, oh, come on. Just figure it out. Just go ahead. Practice mindful eating. Don't eat after dinner, things like that. But now, really, with the GLP-1, so originally what it came out is for people with diabetes, because it does help drop their blood sugars, which is a good thing. And the majority of people who have what we call type 2 diabetes, or it's developed later on or adult onset, is they do tend to have some weight to lose. So they said, okay, this is going to be a beneficial drug for them. When they found out it had a big weight loss part, though, that's where they started developing that. My biggest problem I had is probably, when was the whole supply chain interruption and we couldn't get wood or medicine or anything like that?
Yeah.
Oh, like
2 years ago?
21, 22?
Okay.
Oh,
So
3 years ago?
I want to say, because we were building a house in 2020 and we got our lumber, but I know
But the neighbors did.
yeah, but it was like, you knew there was they were talking about the shortage. And so it was, I want to say probably 21-ish.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, so I'd have some people who truly had diabetes, needed this medication for themselves, and they could not get it because it had become so popular. Everyone in
I don't know
Hollywood.
if it correlated at that same time as the lumber. So maybe
It wasn't lumber, but
I was going to say
I feel
like 2 years
yeah.
ago.
was that okay? Was it
Yeah,
2
I
years
feel like
ago?
it was way more recent with that I saw headlines.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe.
Okay.
So in the past 2 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So again, so these poor people are like, I've gone to 7 different pharmacies. I cannot get my medicine to control my blood sugars. And so many people in Hollywood were hopping on it for the next film, this, that, and I mean, not just Hollywood, but everywhere. So it just was frustrating for me as a dietitian because these poor people need it for true health reasons where everyone else is trying to lose. And it wasn't even that they were obese. It was just a matter of losing 10 or 20 pounds just to look better for their next role. So we've got that. So really what I have found with the GLP-1s is they are very effective. They've seen that it can help decrease heart disease. They've seen it can help with sleep apnea, different things like that. But the trick is this medication replaces some of the hormones that people don't have. So it does decrease your appetite, low degree nausea, and everything else. But then what happens with that is once you go off the medicine, what happens to your appetite?
Comes back.
Goes back up. Yeah. You start getting the food noise back in your head. You start craving the carbohydrates and stuff. So right now, it's still fairly new. We don't know what's going to happen long term. But I've had a couple of patients who've been on it 2 or 3 years. They've lost anywhere from 40 to 120 pounds. But what is going to happen long term, we really don't know. Maybe it is just a small dose or something. So asking about the GLP-1s, I think they are good. I think it's important for people who truly have weight to lose and who have what we call a comorbidity, so high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, things like that. But I know of people who have been given the medicine where they've got a normal, what we call a body mass index or BMI, and they've been put on this medicine. And I'm like, for what? Just go out and exercise a little bit. Or let's go there. Accept your body for what it is. If you have birthed 2 kids, if you have lived 50 plus years of your life, just embrace what your body says.
And look at your genetics too.
Exactly.
Look at where you came from and, who gave birth to you and, your parents and your grandparents and all of that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're all built completely different.
I mean, I will be really good in a famine. I would do really well in working in a field. I mean, it just is. But I rely on my strength, though. And that's what you have to do, is you have to find your strengths. So again, actually, can I say that? Okay, we'll see. We might have to hold on to this one. So we have a mutual friend. So what happened, though, is kind of a funny story. So we have a friend who lives in the general area. And when my kids were younger, they came over and tapped me on my belly and they said, Mom, I want you to look like this person, and this person is just a tiny little thing, everything else. And I'm like, Mom would be dead before she even looked like that. I'm like, I'm not built that way.
Right.
So it's just one of those things. So that's where you have to just not keep trying to go for what your neighbor looks like or what the person on social media looks like, but just who you are. What strengths do you have? When I have people who are dealing with weight, I'm like, can you give me 3 things that you like about yourself? And usually they'll break down into tears.
Yeah.
That's you're like, yes, that does happen.
Yeah.
But do you like your smile? Do you like the fact that you're strong? Different things like that.
Right.
That is like therapy.
It is.
I do that in
For
my practice
sure.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it definitely overlaps.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Unapologetically Female. If you liked this episode, please tune in next week for part 2.